Lesson 11.4. Select and draw conclusions from samples. Well, before we can talk about drawing conclusions, I have to talk about getting the samples. Population is the group of people or objects that you want information about, so that's the large group. A sample is a smaller group from the population. Because if the population is too large, you have to work with a small subset of the population. There's 4 types of samples. Self-selected, where the members volunteer. Systematic, where a rule is used to select members. Convenience, you just choose the ones that are easy to reach. And random, where everyone has the equal chance of being selected. The best one is random. A manufacturer wants to sample the parts from a production line for defects. Identify the type of sample described. Alright, so if they choose every 5th item and test that, what type of sample is it? That would be systematic, because the rule is every 5th item. Systematic is a rule. Alright, how about a manufacturer has the first 50 items tested and then we just say, we're good enough and keep going? Well, what would that be? Probably something like convenience, because it is easy. Unbiased samples are what we want. We want that to ensure accurate conclusions about our population from our sample. An unbiased sample is representative of the population. However, a sample that over or underrepresents part of the population is biased, and we want unbiased. Although there are many ways of sampling a population, a random sample is preferred because it is most likely to be representative of the population and most likely to be unbiased. So let's say a magazine asked its readers to send in their responses to several questions regarding healthy eating. Tell whether the sample of responses is biased or unbiased and explain. Well, let's see. They're just asking people to send in their responses. It's just asked. So the people have to actually choose to send in their response. Therefore, it is going to be the type of sample will be self-selected, and that'll be biased because usually only people with strong opinions will respond. Self-selected is almost always biased because usually just those with strong opinions will respond. Either they're really for it or really against it. Those in the middle, aren't going to bother. Let's say the owner of a company with 300 employees wants to survey them about their preference for a regular 5-day, 8-hour work week or a 4-day, 10-hour work week. Describe a method of selecting a random sample of 50 employees to poll. So either way, you're getting 40 hours a week. It's just do you work 5 days or 4 days with a couple hours extra each day. Well, if we want to select 50 employees, there's many different ways. One example is you place all the names in a hat and have somebody randomly grab out 50. You could put them all on a computer spreadsheet and have a computer randomly choose 50, or things like that. Sample size is also important. I mean, we could have one person represent 1 billion people. So we could test the world, sample the world, and 7 people. But that doesn't seem very reasonable. When conducting a survey, the larger the sample size, the more accurately the sample represents the population. So as sample size increases, the margin of error decreases. our margin of error is calculated, and it gives the limit on how much the responses of the sample would differ from the responses of the population. For a sample size n, the margin of error is plus and minus 1 divided by the square root of n. The plus and minus means it could be higher or lower. So let's say we survey 1,535 people, and 48% of them prefer brand A over brand B and C. What is the margin of error for the survey? Alright, my sample size is 1,535. So the margin of error is plus and minus 1 over the square root of n. So I put in the 1,335 and it gives me plus and minus 0.026. Or, often it's in percent, plus and minus 2.6%. Okay, but what would be an interval that you likely would obtain the exact percent of all people who prefer brand A? So people who prefer brand A, we said that they were 48% of people preferred brand A, but we have a margin of error. So what we do is we take our average and plus and minus the margin of error. So our average is 48%. I'm going to plus and minus my margin of error, the 2.6%. The minus would give me 45.4. The plus would give me 50.6. So it'll be between 45.4% and 50.6%. A polling company conducts a poll for a U.S. presidential election. How many people did the company survey if the margin of error is plus and minus 3%? Often the margin of error is actually greater than that, which means they're going to poll less people. So let's see how many we get. Margin of error is plus and minus 1 over the square root of n. So our margin of error is 3%. I'll write that as a decimal, 0.03. The plus and minuses cancel out. And I don't want the n in the denominator, so I'm going to multiply both sides by the square root of n. And then I need to solve for the n. So I'll divide by the 0.03 and square both sides. When I square both sides, I'll have the n equals 1,111.11. Now we cannot have a fraction of a person, so we'd round that to 1,111